Hello, welcome back to the home of Cinch YouTube, Rockingham, where today we are driving potentially the electric car of 2023. This is the MG4 XPower and everyone is talking about it. It costs from under £36,500, yet it has 435 horsepower and it will hit 62 in under 4 seconds. Those are super hatch numbers, and yet this thing can be used on the road and it's very practical indeed. But today our focus is on this stuff, the asphalt, because we want to see how it handles on the limit and at speed and against our stopwatch. Oh, and just for fun, we're going to see how quickly it burns through its kilowatts to see if you can really do a track day in one of these. So let's get cracking. Before we hit the track, don't forget, if you haven't already, click subscribe to our channel to see more videos like this. And when shopping for your next car, make sure you check out cinch.co.uk. So, we're out on track in an MG4 XPower. I don't think this car has ever been marketed as a track machine, but like the Golf R from Volkswagen, which has been out for a number of years now, offering the same kind of supercar-like performance, but then general usability and practicality, well, I have a feeling this thing might just overachieve when it comes to the performance. Now, we actually drove the MG4 in rear-wheel drive form on this track last year, but it was a lot wetter and a lot slipperier. Today, it's nice and warm. So it's grippy, and we also have a lot more performance, a lot more grip, and a lot more power and torque from this version, the XPower. Now, the XPower name has been brought back by MG, fair play to them, because of course, MG is basically a Chinese brand now with British heritage, but they've brought back a name from the archives. The XPower is the performance model of this 4 lineup, and it has 435 horsepower, and it will crack, as I said earlier, 0 to 62 in under 4 seconds. Those are serious numbers. But it would also do over 200 miles claimed of range. Now, we've got it in sport mode, and you can put it into a sport mode, and you can also turn off the ESC in the menus as well, and that does drop the mileage down. So we're gonna see how that affects my kilowatt hour per mile usage at speed. But first, let's see how this thing drives on track at speed. Right, we come up to our first S, and I can tell you already, doing 100 miles an hour, and I wasn't even foot to the floor there, so it is quick. Really quick. In fact, the 0 to 62 miles an hour really does feel absolutely genuine. Smart with their Brabus model of their new #1, which we drove recently, link in the description below for that review. Well, that car was quick, but it didn't quite actually hit its 0 to 62 time, and on the road, it didn't necessarily feel that rapid after you got going. It was off the line where it felt really quick. And this is similar in that the initial acceleration is a real shove you back into the seats, these lovely and cushioned seats. But then it does smooth out, the delivery is linear after that. And I must say, while it's going around bends really well, and the traction is superb at the moment, while the tyres are only medium temperature, shall we say, it does feel its weight. It leans around quite a lot, and you can't stiffen up the suspension. So that's not an ideal thing, and that means it's not like a Golf R when you optioned on the adaptive suspension, you could stiffen it up. But the traction is great, coming out of the hairpin there with that much torque. Right, let's talk about the balance. So I've said the performance is good, the acceleration is really good. The balance is good as well. If I brake, turn in, weight over the nose, tip it in, it turns in nice, and it actually rotates on turning. So the car wants to make the apex of the corner, the back end comes around. Don't have actually got tons of grip. As you can probably see, I'm having to correct the car there on turning. So the front wants to go in, but then as the weight leans over onto the rear wheel, it does then start to slide the tail out. Now that's really good fun, but it does mean it's a little bit loose. Let's see what we have here. Lift off oversteer, it does lift off oversteer. Proper hot hatch stuff, MG4. What about into the hairpin? Right, 94 miles an hour on the brakes are. The brakes are really good. Despite having fake calipers, fake orange covers over silver calipers, they do stand up to the heat so far anyway, even in a handful of laps. If I turn it in now and check out the traction through here, turn it in, nice bit of rotation, yeah, it's good. Although it is cutting my power just a little bit there. So I've got ESC off, but interestingly, it was cutting the power under traction. So it's like traction control isn't turned off. I can also just about start to smell the brakes. I might just back it off a little bit, just to think about the car overall. Now this thing has a 61.8 kilowatt hour battery, of usable battery that is. And we're currently getting 2 miles per kilowatt hour, which I must say isn't too bad given the way I'm driving it. It is giving me an indicated 145 miles of range at 88% battery, so it shows you if you work it hard, it will get rid of the range, but it's not burning off the miles as quickly as some other EVs. How quickly is it going to go around the track? I think it will empty its battery. Let's do the calculation for that. We're up to, what have we done? We've done 6 miles and it's used 13% battery life. I'm going to turn up the tempo now. Let's see. Before I do my time lap, let's hammer her in. On the brakes, flicker in, rotate, lovely. Oh, that was nice. Up the curb, good traction. She's hauling me through. Apparently I've only got 85% power though, so I think the battery's getting hot. Although I'm still doing 100 mile an hour into the S here, on the brakes, up the curb. Yep. Nice bit of mid-corner rotation. The balance is really nice. Turns in, just rotates a little bit. This is a great corner here. Took it flat in a radical the other day. Or almost flat anyway. Near enough. Not quite here in the MG4. That was a real big lift, but I didn't brake. Braking into here, she slowed me right down. I'm not going to use too much curb. I lied, I used all the curb because it didn't put the power down great. But it's fine. You can see this car is extremely capable at hiding its 1.8 tons of weight on turn-in, but then once that mass settles in and you squash down on those tyres, it is about managing the weight. But come on, it's doing a really good job here. So I think I'm going to let it cool down, especially those brakes and the rear tyres. And let's see how quick this MG4 XPower can go on our track. Is it going to get up there with some of the quick petrol hot hatches? That would be interesting, wouldn't it? Let's find out. Alright, okay, so we are kind of down the tail end of our leaderboard field, but actually, interestingly, this thing has beaten a proper hot hatch in the traditional sense. That mini JCW set an alright time, and that's a normal petrol hot hatch. It's front wheel drive, of course. But this thing has gone comfortably quicker than it. Yeah, okay, it's all wheel drive, but it weighs 1.8 tons. And of course, I think if the traction control, which you might have noticed, wasn't fully letting me to put the power down, well, if that had actually let go and let me do what I wanted the car to, I think we could have shaved a whole second off of that time. The ESC could be switched off and the car turned in beautifully because of it. The rear rotated nicely, but it just wouldn't let me put the power down. Basically, every time I floored the accelerator out of a bend, I didn't get full power for a second and a half in some cases. So there's definitely a lot of times we had, if MG, I'm talking to you, if you let that traction control go off with the ESC. So maybe there's time for an XPower S model where you can do that. What do you think though? Overall, I was really impressed. I actually thought the car handled the track nicely. The grip was great. The tyres have stood up to a lot of the abuse, and the brakes as well, while looking very hot when we finished the lap, they actually maintained performance throughout. There was no fading whatsoever, despite me really stamping on the pedal. The car moved around. It needs to be a bit stiffer really to be a track car, but if you want to come out on circuit and do a lap or two of quick driving, there's definitely a lot of fun to be had in an XPower MG4. Oh yeah, and we promised to tell you how much energy this thing would use on track. Well, according to the dash, it's given me 2 miles per kilowatt hour, which is actually pretty good, but that's used 37% of battery usage in 19.5 miles, and it's taken 100 miles of indicated range off the dash. So it's gone from 190 in sport mode down to 93 miles. So yeah, you're gonna have to manage your range if you want to do track days in this, but more importantly, you're gonna have to manage those battery temps. So it's probably short and fun stints